Boop, boop, boop. And everything's in it. Now we're podcasting.
Sweet.
This is how you podcast.
That was easy.
Podcasting ABC. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Here's an intro. Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda and hidden kombucha under the table in the fridge. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I don't know what it's like in the future when this episode airs, but right now, in real time with us sitting here, it is a rainy day in Pittsburgh. My boy here got a little soggy getting into the studio, but you probably can't tell.
A little bit wet.
You know, he's resilient. He made it through the storm.
It did.
In a few different ways, which we may get into, because you know your boy's been dealing with some stuff. Yeah. It's been kind of crazy, but we're just meeting for the first time today. This is my new friend, Dusty Ray, aka Prplchld. Make some noise for the internet.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me.
The internet's really, really happy that you're here. It's good to meet you. We've been in communication now for like a year or two. Yeah. I feel like through just various email and messages and, you know, the internet.
Yeah.
Just like, yo, we got to link up one day. Yeah. And then just like, it just hasn't fucking happened until now. But now here we are. We're meeting for the first time. There's a bunch of strangers here watching us meet and interact for the first time.
Yep.
And yeah. It's cool that you're here.
It's freaking cool, man. I love the show. By the way, thank you so much for having me. It's super cool. Super cool to see you out there doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of it. It's super cool to see all the stuff you've been doing now too. I mean, 'cause like you seem like you're a pretty busy boy with a long background in, you know, the Pittsburgh music scene and beyond. There's a whole lot of talking points that we can get into. Yeah. But right now, let's talk about what you're most currently working on, which I believe is this Prplchld project, which is spelled PP or PRPLCHLD.
Yeah.
All right. So what's that all about? Not the spelling, but the project.
Seriously, maybe we should talk about the spelling more.
It makes it it's like harder to remember, but easier to Google.
Just no, what is it? Vowels?
No vowels. Okay.
Yeah, no vowels. Internet language.
There's like weird vowels though. There's like omitting some weird ones.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, but everything I do is weird. So,
all right. Yeah.
Yeah. But that name came actually from, it's kind of a crazy story. I've been in a bunch of bands, used a bunch of different names, but my like family and everything, they've always called me Prplchld.
Oh, really?
And that's because when I was born, my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck.
Whoa.
And I was totally purple and had like a cone head, according to my dad. And that's where I got the name. So it's kind of like, in a weird way, the underlying story to like all my music is kind of like this life death type situation that I, for some reason, always encounter. So that's really where that comes from. And I just went with it because it just felt like me. You know what I mean? Felt like, you know, something I could do where if I wanted to change styles or change things up, it wouldn't matter because it's always going to kind of be straight from me. So yeah.
And what style of music are you doing right now? For me, because I mean, there's so much that we can dig into.
Totally.
But you know, I know obviously, like pretty much the Cliff's Notes, I would say, of your musical career would be like, you know, starting in a rock background,
right,
and ending up in like more of a electronic focused background, or what some may argue is modern rock,
right?
Depending on your perspective. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, funny enough, like when I started listening to music when I was very young, like I listened to everything. So it was either Metallica, Ace of Base, Blink-182.
Sure. It was the right time. Like if you grew up in the 90s, like it was, everything was popular.
Yeah. Plethora of everything. So instead of like niching myself totally, I've always just kind of been a fan of just kind of doing what I want. And whether that be throwing a keyboard or throwing a harmonica or throwing a guitar, like I just kind of go with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like this kind of almost developed into my sound, which is almost like you don't really know what I might drop next. And it's not really intentional either. It just kind of happens that way. You
I
know
feel
what
that
mean?
that's more natural though, because it ends up being like a genuine reflection of yourself versus the concept of like, oh, we're a hardcore band, so we're just gonna write hardcore songs because
Right.
we're a hardcore band. And like for you, it's like, well, no, I'm me, and I got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you
Yeah.
just gonna mix it up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, my first original music was very electronic rock emo stuff. Like I'd say the first EP I ever made in my first band, After Drama, like back in high school.
Yeah.
So
Which was I don't mean to cut you off, but I was actually just with Buzzy Torque before
Really? Yeah.
today, like before I got here.
Yeah.
And he asked me who I was podcasting with, and I told him, and he was like, "Oh, you got to bring up After Drama."
I think he actually did some work on my first album.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. I remember and Josh at the studio too. Like,
yeah, shout outs to Buzzy real quick.
yeah, what's up, Buzzy?
Yeah,
Good dude.
yeah,
Super talented.
yeah. So that's funny. You brought it up. I didn't have to, but all right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean that's where it all started. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Doing stuff like that, and we were playing shows. Playing big shows at Mr. Smalls and stuff, and then we went on a U.S. tour, and then we broke up after that, and then I moved to the West Coast, and then joined a band out there, and then just toured the U.S. for like 2 years straight, and then and all the music has been slightly similar. I feel like it's been very, I'm a pop guy at the end of the day. I really like music that a lot of people can like, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I almost feel a need to like, not necessarily please people, but it makes me excited to create something that a lot of people could potentially enjoy. You know what I mean?
What's your take on people that have a thing against pop music? Because there are people that seem to have this vendetta against the idea of pop music. And that really, it kind of rubs me the wrong way when people think like that. Because I feel like they have this very jaded view of what pop music is.
I totally get it. Like I feel like I remember in my first band, I would never listen to the radio. Even though I was into like older pop music, maybe like 80s pop, or early 90s, but I would never really jam to the radio. I kind of felt like it was really watered down, and I didn't hear any songs I really liked, so I just didn't mess with it. But I think that's might be where those people are coming from, but it's totally kind of subjective in a way, But I don't know. Pop is also guilty of doing a lot of things that are out there, I feel like, which is what drew me to it. But I think that might be what people don't like is like, one day you have a Britney Spears, and then one day you have a Ludacris, and then one day you have a Calvin Harris. And it's like, they might not all be this. They're all kind of
Totally
in their own niche. And that's what I think is really cool about pop music is it's almost like a list of all the different genres and people. So you're not going to like all of it.
I think too, sometimes people maybe get a misunderstanding of what pop music is, in the sense that, something cannot be popular but still be pop music technically. You know what I mean?
Right.
I appreciate music written in a pop music format because there's a lot of nuance that goes into writing a really simple track that can resonate with a large demographic of people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people overlook that. Specifically people that I know that may be more on like the technical heavy metal side of things, where it's like, if this isn't 1,000 miles an hour or, 10,000 time signature changes in a 5-minute period, it's not a good song.
Right.
But it's like, I don't think that's the right way to look at it, because it's like you try to write a song that has a very, technically simple structure, but can connect with millions of people. It's like, it's an element of songwriting that goes past the technicality and goes into like what makes music human, like what makes us draws us to music in a different way. It's a whole nother part of your brain that you're using.
Right. Totally.
It's so neat.
Totally. I totally agree. I think, I think that it's like, I remember back in the day, writing songs for the sake of trying to make the best guitar parts, or for the sake of trying to make the drums crazy or whatever. And, if you listen to true pop music, all those elements are in there. You know what I mean? Whether it be Gaga or, Katy Perry or Lil Wayne or anything, like there's a lot of elements in that music that are from other genres and things. And that's what I like about it. So yeah, I don't know, but you do have a good point where if it's not popular, I guess it's not really pop music. Right. and I also like that because I feel like there's a lot of room in pop music to do different shit, to experiment.
Yeah.
It feels free kind of.
Yeah. There's so much stuff that you can do within the confines of pop music that I think a lot of people do overlook or sometimes dismiss just because they don't want to, admit that, something on the radio they like just because it's on the radio or because it's popular. People have this, they really romanticize being part of the counterculture.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody's that unique though.
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
true. And if it is good, I mean, people are going to find out about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to explode. And that's what I found. And like, I was listening to, Lil Peep before he blew up and then he died, unfortunately, passed away. But I remember feeling like, man, I found another artist that like no one knows about and I felt cool. And then all of a sudden it's on the front of the news. And it does make you feel kind of like, oh, that was my little secret, other people didn't know.
Sure.
But then it's like, well, don't you want the artist to touch as many people as possible? I know that's what I'm assuming most artists want is just to reach as many people as they can.
I remember the first time I ever felt that feeling that, an artist that I really liked was being stolen by pop was Korn.
Oh, okay.
Way back in the day, because I was
love
basically
Korn.
I had an upstairs neighbor from my dad who was like a 15-year-old kid that skateboarded cool as shit, and he showed me Korn.
Yeah.
Before like Korn really blew up, so I kind of knew about it,
dude. Totally.
And then it went from being made fun of in the 7th grade for wearing a Korn t-shirt because nobody knew what it was to
definitely
all of a sudden being cool because I had a Korn t-shirt, because they're on TRL and shit.
Absolutely.
And I was like, what the fuck? Why does everybody like Korn? That's my shit.
Yeah.
And then
I went through the same shit with them. I was like friends with a kid that just transferred from New York in like elementary school, and he was like, you have to check out Korn. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. And there was like 2 or 3 of us in the school that wore Korn t-shirts and
hell yeah,
big baggy like Adidas pants and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are fun times.
That was the fucking move, man.
Yeah,
hell yeah. So
that.
In terms of your personal creative output, whether it be more rock driven or synth driven, it's always been from a pop background. Did you ever play in any like more experimental or work with more experimental or heavier music or anything like that?
Definitely. I feel like, I'm a fan of making albums, so I've made quite a few like 10 plus track, collections of music, and there's always 3 or 4 pop tracks that are really accessible, and then there's a couple like weird ones where I really get into my element, whether it be like acoustic or some weird long emo thing, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But with that being said, I feel like the whole like emo type genre has always been in my music because I've always been really, I do music because of the emotional aspect of it, because I have to, like, it's a therapy for me. It's not really like a job or anything. It doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like something I have to do daily. Otherwise I get really lost, I get depressed or whatever. And it's kind of saved my life in a lot of aspects. So I just allow myself to do what I'm feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And recently the hip hop stuff kind of came into play a lot heavier. I don't really know why. I just got really into it. I felt like over the last 10 years, I got really into hip hop. I started with like Kanye and his earlier stuff. And then it just went from there, all the artists that he influenced. And then of course, living in LA, it was a very hip hop kind of scene I was in. All my friends were into it. And once I started making it, I realized I was kind of good at it. And I was good at making beats because I started as a drummer. So I can play, a drum set all day. And just having those beats in there actually really it actually made me feel like I finally had this, I almost felt like I was always missing something in my music. Like I'd put out stuff, people would really enjoy it, and I felt very lucky, but I'd always kind of be like reaching for something. But now that I have these beats and this whole kind of like hip hoppy kind of influence, it kind of feels like completing the story in a way. Cause now I have the freedom to like speak or rap or sing, as well as the beats can be anything, any type of vibe. And I just got really into it, just like the influence it has too, I think is really, really huge on people.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's like hip hop is like at the top of pop.
Yeah.
Now, you know what I mean? Like those two are pretty fucking synonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now hip hop is definitely in a place where it needs to transition into something else, because I feel like there's a lot of copycats and there's a lot of like, almost like it feels like preset music. Like you can just pick a beat and just write something about ice on your neck and stuff.
That's how a lot of it is. That's how a lot of it's made. Unfortunately, like it's really, I feel like I'm very conflicted when I think about this, where it's like, okay, let's say I'm an aspiring rapper.
Right.
And I want to make a track, it's not like, oh, I need to, link up with somebody local that makes beats and do something. I can just go on SoundCloud,
YouTube,
download a beat or rip a beat off YouTube on my phone. I can record my vocals on my phone, and release it on my phone. Definitely. And now it's like you could do all this stuff.
Definitely.
And I feel like there's a lot of artists. I love the idea that access to technology is there.
Yeah.
And that everybody can do it. But it also really muddies the waters, because there's a lot of temporary shit that's out there. And it like really bottlenecks everything, because everybody's getting their shit on Spotify. So, but a lot of those people that have stuff on Spotify, like they'll release one or two singles and then they'll never release anything else.
Right. Definitely.
And it makes it really hard for people that are putting out like consistent content or whole albums and things like that. You mentioned that you're an album guy. How do you feel about the like single culture that we live in now?
It's kind of tough to keep up with, because when I write, singles do this thing where when you release a single, if it blows up, it's kind of like, where do we go from here? And I'm seeing that happen over and over and over again, where an artist will have a single blow up, and then because albums are like not allowed anymore, they're too long, there's too much material. It's kind of like, it's hard for them to make another single that can maybe be as impactful. And it's also hard for them. I don't know. I can't really explain it, honestly, because I feel like things are changing right now to where artists are almost, it's cool for an artist to release like a 30-track album because people need more music. And
it's one or the other, right?
Yeah. And
it's so weird.
It has a lot to do with the industry, is why I think I don't have a clear answer on that.
I feel like
it's because their labels, I feel like a lot of times are kind of just, making room for someone. And then when their single dies out, it's like, why make another single? Why not just sign another artist? You know what I mean? And I think that's what is kind of happening. And that's why I'm kind of advocating for more albums, because it helps to define the artist. You know what I mean?
That's my big thing.
Yeah.
It really bums me out whenever I'll come across somebody like on a Spotify playlist just to stay within that realm. And I'm like, whoa, this is a really tight song. And I go on the artist's page and it's like, there's nothing there. It's like maybe one other single, and it might be from like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's like, what is this person doing? And it makes
when 2 years have gone by, I mean, you're definitely not creating, because
it's like either you are creating and like there's some weird like label thing that's bottlenecking your shit,
right?
Or like whatever. It just bums me out no matter what the outcome is, because it's like nobody makes a really, really tight song and just has that one song. There's other shit. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why aren't we getting albums?
So like Lil Nas is a great example of that. I think like he came out with a banging single and then it blew up so big that like now people are performing it without him, and like people don't care about him making another song. They just care about that song. And then if it's big for a year, I mean, next year there's going to be a new need for something different.
That track's going to be like the fucking, like the Macarena.
Exactly.
In like 15, 20 years from now.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? That's going to be.
And is that bad or good?
Wedding. It's going to be wedding DJ music.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And like, I have no beef with that song or anything. So I'm not saying anything like that to like, diss the dude, but totally. It just has it like written all over it. Like, and like that kind of like that temporary, almost memey, like shit that happens with a lot of music these days kind of bums me out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt a little victim to that because I just started releasing songs for Prplchld in April, and I dropped my first one. I felt really well received within my niche, and then I dropped another one that was well received, but then I got sick, so I basically took the last 4 months off because I wanted to focus on my health and myself because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to make any more music. So, but that was unintentional. Like I definitely plan on dropping a full album full of music. And a lot of the reason why I want to do that is because I love to tour and travel. And I feel like you can't really do that unless you have a nice collection of music that people can dive into. You can't really tour on a single, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're just doing appearances, which I've done before, and they're not really fulfilling. You know, I like to play sets, you know, and that's just what I like to do. So I think even if it's not commercially successful, I'm still cool with that as long as I'm able to go out there and just perform every night or do whatever, you know.
That's totally understandable. I'm like dealing with this thing now where with Sykes and the New Violence, we're working on the next batch of material that will eventually be the next album. And I'm trying to, you know, it's like, what do I want to do? How do I want to go about releasing this? Even though as much of an album guy as I am, part of me wants to like release like a physical, like whenever that music's done, like I have physical copies of, you know, a CD, maybe a vinyl, everything. Like you can get it at shows, but in terms of releasing it online, maybe I'll release it at like one song at a time,
right,
over the course of, you know, 6 months. Instead of putting it all out at once. So my album promo is just dropping singles one at a time. If you come see me, you can get the whole fucking thing. But if you want to listen to it online, it's not going to happen until everything's been released. That's like what I'm thinking. I'm trying to find a way to balance both worlds.
I think that's a great idea. I actually thought about the same thing. I was like, well, because I have a collection of like maybe 15 tracks right now. And the first 2 singles I released are from that collection. And I planned on just every month, you know, popping one out. But like I said, I got sick and was in and out of the hospital and I just wasn't focused on it. So I took a pause, but coming back in, that is the plan to, you know, drop one, drop another, and then put out the album for the people that want it, but then have some new stuff ready for right after that.
Yeah. There's kind of like this fun freedom right now where, you know, it's like we're doing cool stuff, but like we don't necessarily like, I mean, I honestly don't know about your situation in terms of like if you're contracted under anybody or if you have any sort of obligations to release music. Do you?
I do have a contract, but it's a great contract. Okay, and it's allowed me. I've been in it for a while now, before I moved to LA a long time ago. Okay. And just me and a couple people, and they basically just want me to do what I want to do and do it as hard as I can. Well, you know,
I guess that's the point that I'm getting at, was that it's really cool. I'm not under contract to anybody. I just do whatever the fuck I want. And I mean, sometimes that works in my favor. Sometimes it really doesn't. It might be it'd be helpful to have some advice from somebody, some guidance, because I think I make a lot of really shitty mistakes when it comes to marketing at times.
Dude, I totally relate. I totally relate.
I don't know. I like the idea of though, just like, if this is what I want to do, this is what I feel like, this is how I want to put my art out into the world. That's just what I feel like it's my call.
Definitely. I mean, if I would have signed to a typical label, I feel like my life would be so different right now. Like I probably would not have enjoyed it at all because of how limiting it can be and how maybe like I wouldn't want to go on a 4th or 5th tour playing the same songs. Maybe I want to make new music. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do that. And that's what's kept me, that's what gives me the energy to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because once someone's telling me what to do, I lose interest pretty quick, which kind of sucks. And, sometimes hurts me, but
I guess, I mean, it depends on what it is. Like, it's a type of thing where it's really hard to take a critique. And sometimes that sort of thing coming from whoever, if it's coming from the right person, even if they're saying something that you don't want to hear, it might be something that you have to hear.
So that's something that when I moved to LA, I went out there with my business partner and we got a manager for me for the time I was out there he was basically with me for about 5 years. And his job was just to tell me what was wrong with everything that I did all the time. And I loved it.
I could use that, dude. Hold up.
Yeah. I guess if I could.
For sure.
Yeah. If I could throw out a little piece for anyone out there listening, like, I would try to get somebody that you trust to tear you a new one as much as possible in the right ways, you know?
Yeah, no,
like
that's awesome.
He would tell me all the time, like, you can't sing this song, you know, this song doesn't work. Your image, this picture sucks. This video sucks. And all it did was make me better. And if you can find the right team of people to direct you in the right way, it can only help, you know? You can't listen to all the fans or people out there. You can't listen to all of them because you'll never do what you want to do. But if you do have, you know, one or two people in your life that can tell you when you're doing something wrong, it definitely changed the game for me, because I feel like I was making a lot of mistakes in the beginning over and over, kind of without realizing it.
I feel like it's that the idea of like, you know, you have a baby and you think that, you know, your baby's the cutest baby in the world, but it might not be the cutest baby in the world.
Right.
You kind of need somebody to be like, hey, you know,
it's like fighting with the other kids.
Your kid's kind of ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
exactly. Yeah.
And you're not that special.
And that's something to remember, you know, because yeah.
And even if your stuff is great, it's still, there's still kind of an element to it that doesn't really matter that much, because there's lots of great art.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's very inspiring, but I know that idea can really tear a lot of people down too.
Yeah, it can.
And just having to just accept that idea of like, well, I mean, you know, there are other people. There's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people doing exactly what we're trying to do.
Right.
But it's not really about them and whatever their journey is. It's about your journey and your day to day.
Definitely. I mean, I know even like in town here, like there's a lot of like competition between acts. Like I can feel it sometimes when I meet people in other acts or something. They like, you know, it's like not about becoming a friend. It's more about finding out what they're doing so that you can do that, or so that it just feels kind of competitive in any city, in any town. So I try to just stay away from that as much as possible, because I'm kind of like a sensitive dude sometimes. So when things get personal and shit, like that really brings me down.
I know. I really haven't dealt with the competition thing a whole lot personally, but what I have dealt with is meeting a lot of people that like only want to fuck with you if you have something that you can give them, like something to offer them. But as soon as there's nothing, you know, as soon as there's nothing for you to offer them, it's just like, well, they're just on to, you know, wherever else they can get something.
Definitely. That sucks.
And it's a huge bummer.
Yeah, it is a bummer. I mean, I've always been a songwriter, so I feel like if I can offer anything, it's songs. And I've fallen victim to that many times, especially in older bands. Like people just want to play with you to play your songs, but they don't want to like hang out with you or say anything nice about you and stuff, you know? So it does suck. And that's the main reason why I kind of went the route that I went, because I know my intentions are good with my music. I just want to make people feel good like it makes me feel. And I don't really care if someone hates it or someone likes it. You know, if it makes me happy and it's up to like my standard or whatever, then I'm totally 100% good with it. You know,
I've been having a lot of people in my listener question threads asking about like my definition of success. And this is a question now that I've answered it a few times on the show, but I'm curious about your personal definition of success in terms of, you know, the world of music. Like, how do you define success?
I'm on both ends of the spectrum for that. Like, number one for me nowadays is happiness, because I've battled with such bad depression in the past, like really low lows. And I was maybe doing things that were considered successful at the time, but I was not happy. And so the amount of followers, the amount of money, that kind of started going out the window for me in terms of what I was focused on, because it doesn't matter if you get 10,000 plays, 1 million plays. If you're not happy, like it's really not going to matter at all. It's not going to do anything for you. So once I started focusing on doing music and doing things and playing with people that just truly make me happy, a lot of things opened up, and I actually got more success that way. But at the same time, I do have like crazy, not standards, but just like ideas for myself. Like, oh, I want to do US tours, or I want to, sell 1 million albums, or I want to, get 1 million streams or whatever. Like those thoughts go through my head every day for sure. And I work really hard to try to make that happen. But at the end of the day, I know like whatever's meant to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I just do the best I can. And I think it's just important to know that you've tried your best or done your best and you didn't listen to the wrong people or anything like that. So success for me is just like being able to wake up and feed my guinea pigs, hang out with my girlfriend and go write music that I like. And I think the fact that I can still do that after doing it for so long is like a huge blessing,
Totally.
Especially because, there's some friends of mine that aren't here anymore today, that have gone down the wrong roads. And, I battled with, different, addictions and things like that really kind of messed stuff up for me. And being through all that and being like sober and clear-minded and just focused on working has really changed my perspective on a lot of things.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm with you in terms of just like, I think that, the center of the success has to be like within yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing else is going to matter.
Yeah.
And like, just in terms of like, the very basic needs, like, just like, does your spirit feel in check? I know that like some people are like kind of like they're not into that shit. And I'm not necessarily a super spiritual person or like given to things, but I definitely think that there's just like a general vibe. Like is your vibe, is your feeling, do you feel okay? Like, like that's something that needs to be
absolutely
centered. And then like, are you able, because like with that, you're able to put, a positive vibe or a positive energy out into the people that are around you. And then that's only gonna, leak into your work, and then the people that help you get your work out there, and it just it spreads,
and it spreads a lot faster than the opposite energy of like, I want numbers, I want money, I want fans. I mean, because if that does work out for you, it's going to take you down a really hard road that you might not be able to handle.
I think that there's a positive way though to be like, okay, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, I want to get my numbers up and
of course
things like that, but I think it's just a matter of the perspective of like how much and what that really means to you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like what you are willing to sacrifice for that. I think that there's sometimes where, you can, if you're willing to like sacrifice everything for, the sake of, just getting, your Instagram numbers up, it's like, maybe you got to take a step back.
Definitely. Because people have done that, they've sacrificed everything, and I am,
and
if you do that, you don't have anything left.
And by like sacrificing everything, I think what I mean, being more specifically, is like straying from the path of what you were originally setting out to do. Like, I feel like sometimes there's a lot of artists that start in one thing, but they want to get, social media numbers up. So they become this other thing.
Right.
And then they end up becoming, in some aspects, it feels like they're something that they don't even want to be.
Right.
But they're just trying to keep the numbers up.
Right.
And at the end of it, it's like, well, what's the point? It's like, okay, now you're popular, but you're popular doing something that you're not even happy doing. Or like you're doing music, but you get popular doing, goofy videos on TikTok.
Totally.
And it's like, okay, well, did you want to be a goofy video maker? No. Are you happy? No. Why? Because I wanted to do music.
Totally agree.
It's like, well,
I've gotten a lot of shit for that, actually. I think people that don't know me as a person have maybe accused me in the past of like switching up genres and switching this up just to like get attention. But the reality of it is I've lost a lot of fans doing that. And I kind of didn't care, because I felt like if I'm going to do this, people that like it are my real fans.
Sure.
Or friends or family or whatever. And the people that are going to like break me down because I want to try something artistically, they're not really your supporters. They just want you to be something they want you to be for their own selfish reasons. And so yeah, I've never done anything for numbers or exposure. It just isn't who I am. It just never felt right. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of opportunity to do that, especially in LA. And I just never pursued it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I know that you've done some stuff, obviously like you've done a lot of stuff with your music in terms of like getting it into other platforms, like with like some television and things like that. Can you dig a little bit into that and like the process of what it's like, you know, like licensing music and maybe like getting your stuff onto like some Spotify playlists and all those, like the back door sort of stuff of the music business that you've engaged with?
Yeah. Well, I know this might sound stupid, but like honestly, a lot of I feel like biggest opportunities I've had have come like out of nowhere. Like I don't know.
That kind of always seems to be how it is though, for real.
It's super weird. That sounds kind of like a cop out because it does, but at the same time, it takes a lot of hard work for someone to even consider giving you an opportunity. So like, for instance, I was lucky enough to have written a song called Across the World, and it's like an EDM track. And I found this kid named Zach in LA to sing on it because I really dug his voice. And it turns out his manager knew someone that was looking for a theme song, and they just sent it to him. And he was like, I love this. I want this to be the theme song for my show. And I was like, it was totally unexpected. And things just kind of work like that sometimes. But if I didn't, you know, take it upon myself to search high and low for the right singer, to search for the right song, to put that out there, it never would have happened. So the biggest thing I think is just trying to better yourself every time you do something and never being discouraged if, you know, things aren't coming your way. But then again, there have been times where things don't come my way and I look at myself and I go, why? And generally it's because I'm not being real with myself, or people can see through it. I feel like people are very intuitive. So, and for instance, the like some other television stuff I did, that came about just because I hit up an old friend of mine and was like, yo, do you want to make some music? And it turns out they were on a TV show and I didn't even know it. And before I knew it, there were cameras in my living room. So it was just kind of this thing where I was always putting myself out there, and for every success I had 1,000 rejections. Like I remember living in Pittsburgh and messaging every popular band in this city and never getting a response. People were always like, just not interested. You know what I mean? To for whatever reason. So I just took my business to LA and I had way more success there. So it really depends on the timing, the place, you know,
sure.
Typical advice, I guess.
So now in 2019, where we are living, the future that we're living in, you know, how do you think that location plays a role?
Well,
now, like in 2019,
in the opposite way that it used to. Yeah. I feel like that's why I don't live in LA anymore, because I didn't feel like, you know, when I moved there, it wasn't a situation of like, oh, I have to move to LA to be famous or something. Like, it was never that. It was just like, I knew that there were a lot of people there that I had already connected with that I wanted to pursue a few routes, and it ended up working out.
Yeah.
But now being back in Pittsburgh, this is the only place I want to be, for two reasons, really. Number one, because I'm from here and I love the city and I love the people. It's been like a breath of fresh air to be back here. And two, because it's amazing to be out of the noise and to be able to focus on your music again, because that is what's most important, is to create the best music you can. You know, besides the videos, besides the photos, the music is what sells it, is what does it.
I think sometimes it's really easy to get distracted from that too. That's something that I have had a big issue with in terms of, you know, even though Sykes and the New Violence isn't necessarily a solo project anymore, I still kind of am like the puppeteer of it, right? Mm-hmm. So sure, like, you know, I'm coming up with the core idea of these songs. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, okay, well, you know, I got to think about our live show. I got to think about our merch, album artwork, promoting, marketing, business, you know, all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus my attention on 20,000 different things. And like, sometimes I forget about, just
the music,
making the music. It's really easy to overlook it when you're trying to manage all this other shit.
Yeah. I've had that problem. And actually, maybe like a little piece of advice for anyone listening. Like, the burden of being a musician is that is how it is now. But the good thing about it is if you can figure out how to divide your time, like divide your year, you know what I mean? Like I look at things like in quarters because I'm like super businessy nowadays. So I think of things like, okay, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 in the year, like what's happening? How's that going to push this? You know what I mean? So
totally, yeah.
If you look at the big picture, it's a lot easier to be like, okay, I'm going to make an album this month. I'm going to wake up every day, put 12 hours in and make an album. Next month, I'm going to use all my marketing skills to market it. The next month, I'm going to tour. You know what I mean? And if you can break it up, it makes it a lot easier. And that's why sometimes a single game doesn't appeal to me because it feels like you're just chasing your tail. Like I put out a single and a month goes by, I marketed it the best I could. Now I have to make another single. You marketed it the best you can. Then another single.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of, I just had this fucking realization. So Netflix is doing really well.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not scheduled television. It's like, Stranger Things comes out, right?
Yeah.
And people have been waiting for this fucking thing. It comes out, they can binge all of it or they can watch one episode at a time.
The addiction is like way higher now.
Yeah, because people don't want to have to always tune in and catch the next thing.
Totally.
But that's what we're doing with music. Instead of dropping full albums or full seasons of a show, we're making people wait for each episode or each song.
Yeah.
So how has that how have those two things happened where people will binge an entire season? They'll spend 8 hours watching all of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But in some way, when it comes to music, they prefer singles. They don't want to give you 40 minutes of time to listen to a full album, but they'll give you 8 hours to watch Stranger Things.
My answer to that is I don't think people prefer singles. I think the industry prefers singles because it's easier to blow something up and throw it away. It's super easy to find one song by an artist that's dope. So you sign an artist. Back in the day, they had to make 100 songs to make 15 that would make the album. Now
there was even a lot of albums though back in the day that just had the single and the rest was just totally duds, but there was no streaming. So you had to put an album of material together just to even sell it.
Right. And everything's switched now. Now it's like, you can sign an artist based on how they look. Why? Because they only need one single. And if they don't have it, well, someone can write one song. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? I think that's happening a lot. But in terms of the music business, I feel like it for me, it's always been synonymous with like the fashion industry or the movie industry, like Netflix or whatever. And for the music industry to be so different than those right now, I think might hurt it in the long run because it's hard to be consistent. And think about owning a label that focuses on hip hop and then next year hip hop's not popular. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? It would be better to have a artist that can tour on an album for 2 years, and then because that creates a different dynamic with the fans. You become a more of a lifelong fan. I feel like when you do that, because you've invested more time into it. When you've heard 15, Lil Peep, I've heard 100 of his songs. I'm a fan for life probably. But Comethazine, I like 2 of his songs. They're amazing songs, but I'm not going to be a fan for life because he hasn't given me anything to invest in. You know what I mean? And I think those core values come into play whether or not you're in the music industry or not. It's just kind of anything you do. You know what I mean? The more people put into you, the more they're going to kind of get out of it too, Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
And, rappers like Future, I feel like he kind of started this whole thing, in terms of rap changing. And he did it by dropping an album every couple months. And that's why he is where he is. And all the followers are down here because it's he did the work. He put out hundreds and hundreds of songs.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'd like to be more on that cusp where I can put out just tons of music,
Yeah. I wish that I had I don't know. That's another thing too, where I almost said, I wish I had the time to do it, but I do have the time. But the problem with me is I'm splitting my weeks up into, well, this day I'm going to work on music and then this day I got to work on promoting this or that, and then on top of everything, I'm trying to do this fucking podcast, and I got
Which
the
you're
metal
great at.
band and all this other stuff. But
it's cool to be dynamic like that. Like for me, I consider myself, I do music all the time, but also I love vlogging. I love doing reality style shit that shows off my life and my guinea pigs, my girlfriend, my studio and stuff. I like showing that side. I think also nowadays being a musician is not just being an artist, I should say, is not just about making the music. Like you have to do other things because people started to realize that's makes you happier. Like even being an artist or a musician, playing music all the time didn't make, a lot of musicians that aren't here anymore happy. And you can see that, when you're forced to perform every night, you're forced to play the same songs all the time. You're forced to be in the studio.
yeah,
Maybe, Lil Peep wanted to, go BMX riding or something, but he probably wasn't allowed because he had to just keep making music and stuff. And, I think that's what's really cool about nowadays is we have that little bit of freedom where you can cross promote and do different things, but you do have to be careful you don't wear yourself thin, because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to do Instagram memes and I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to do vlogs and I'm going to YouTube and I'm going to try to make albums. Like you're not going to be able to do it. Like if you do too much, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, but it's a time management thing, really. I mean, you got to look up Gary V on YouTube. Do you know Gary V?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured you did. Like, he's like my mentor, not literally, but through YouTube.
That dude stresses me out. Like not in a bad way, he just stresses me out.
When I first started watching his stuff, I actually didn't. I was actually the opposite reaction. I was very relieved, and it's because I thought I was the only one that was like that, where I just was like crazy, obsessively, ridiculously committed to what I did. I didn't know that was like, okay. I thought it was weird. I thought it was hurting me. But then when I got more into his content, I was like, okay, like this is what you can do with that energy. You can actually dominate your industry if you want to with that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone's different. So everyone has different energy levels, and it's all about just finding the balance of what makes you happy, I think. In terms of the work.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been like, I fuck with that. Like I've been trying so hard, obviously, like with the new space and everything, like the podcast is something I really give a shit about.
Yeah.
You're
so good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've never made a fucking penny off of the podcast outside of selling t-shirts.
It's really
and
great.
There's so much that's going into it. I want to keep fucking doing it. I want to grow, but I'm always like, there's a voice in the back of my head that's like, oh, I'm not ready. Like I shouldn't reach out to so-and-so because, what do I have to offer them? And part of me now is just saying, just fuck it. Just send somebody a confident ass email and maybe they'll show up.
Definitely. Face to face still, I feel like wins all day. Like if you can meet someone, talk to them face to face, like that goes so far. You know what I mean? As opposed to like DMs and emails, like I'll be honest, I don't get any luck doing that shit. Like sitting around emailing people all day, like, cause all they're looking at is numbers and stuff.
I think the other thing too, that's really hard about emailing or connecting now, I would say back in the day, whenever we were checking our email at a time, like, okay, I'm home. I'm going to sit down at my desktop computer and I'm going to check my email because I'm putting all of my attention into checking my email.
Right.
But now it's like, you're getting an email. You might send out an email.
Hour.
Somebody gets it. It's in their pocket. They're fucking driving. And then by the time they actually get to look at it, they have a fucking Whole Foods coupons and all this other shit that came in their email. It's all it's all filtered in. And then, at the end of the night, they're trying to filter through fucking 45 messages in 10 minutes. Yeah. And if they don't know who the fuck you are,
it's not going to be real.
Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen.
Just literally yesterday, I unsubscribed to, I think, 15 different businesses in my email. I just was like, what the fuck? Like unsubscribe. And they're still coming in today from other places. It's it's amazing, the overload. So that's another reason to make your music really fucking good. It's, is to, I feel like that's the X factor, like, I don't know. I don't know what else to really say.
It's like with a lot of people on another social media aspect, Facebook is suppressing my stuff, Instagram Instagram's algorithms have me hidden. But you ever notice, like, if you post something that's just genuinely dope, like, people will like it.
It goes crazy. Yeah.
Maybe it's not that you're really getting suppressed. It's just that you're putting out crap.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of like tell yourself, like, hey, if something didn't do good, it's not because Facebook's hiding your shit. In some aspects, it does a little bit. But for the most part, it's maybe just because you're putting out something that people aren't interested in. So they're scrolling right the fuck past it.
Dude, definitely.
Overlooking it. And like having that conversation with yourself as an artist to be like, how can I generate content that people are going to engage with? Even if it's like versus instead of like, so I feel like there's this thing now where like, you know, as an artist, I feel obligated to be posting shit every day. But I can't make great content every day. Who can? Not many people. It's like, I feel like it's almost better to just take a fucking step back, work on something that's actually worth everybody's attention, then post it. And then people will engage with it because, you know, this is actually something.
I was just talking about that literally yesterday to someone I just met. And they checked out my Instagram and they were like, not asking advice, but they were kind of like, well, I'm a photographer and I love what I do and I post every day, but it doesn't seem to be working. Like, what do you do? And I was like, I went into the game thinking I was going to post every day, but when I saw what that was going to look like, I was like, don't. I don't care if everyone does it or not. Like, I'm going to wait till the photo's dope, till the video's dope, till the music's dope. Like, because if that's what they're going to you for, like, why would you just post nonsense? You know what I mean?
Totally.
I feel like exponentially you'll lose, you know? And that's what Gary Vee talks about is like, the good thing about what's happening now with social media is it exposes a lot of people. So like everyone's allowed to post every day, but whose shit is good? Who cares about like what stuff do you care about, you know? And it exposes a lot of people like, and you know, that's why I don't post every day. Cause some days I'm just sitting there working and I don't feel like, you know, giving away that secret or, you know, maybe I don't think it would do good. But then again, you know, I think it's different mediums. Like on the story, I don't think about it. Like if it's a story or something, I could post all day on the story because it's a different medium. But if you're talking like, you know, Facebook, YouTube, like heavy pieces of content, it is best to just wait until you have something good, something that you believe in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can kind of feel like, you know, when you're uploading something, you know, it's going to fucking work. If people are going to like it, like you can feel before you hit that post button, like you already know. At least for me, I'm like, oh, people are going to dig this video. Like this came out of nowhere. Like people are going to be like, what? You know what I mean? And I kind of just try to shoot for that, you know, and sometimes it happens a lot. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all.
Yeah. I think as an artist or a band or whatever, it's really easy to come off looking very desperate.
Oh my God.
And like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and the other thing too is like, you know, if you're a band and like you're posting that you're playing shows and nobody's liking the post, it's like nobody cares because you're a band. You're supposed to play shows. Nobody cares.
Right. And what's a photo? Like you can't listen to the photo. It's just it's a filler, you know, sometimes. And that's cool. You know, that's another thing that people talk about too, is like, don't get so caught up on the amount of likes. Cause maybe you do post a photo of your bass guitar and it gets 50 likes, but like maybe you want that photo to be out there. And that's cool too. Like it's not all about, you know, the numbers and stuff. It's about the whole, for me, it's about like legacy, like 10 years from now, like how do I want people to view me, you know? And I try to stick to that a little more than in the moment, you know?
Yeah. And if social media is like Instagram, let's say Instagram is like just visual communication between yourself and the world, right? It would almost be the like, expecting to post something and have hundreds of people like every single post is the equivalent of like every time I say something, I make a room bust out laughing.
Not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. Sometimes you're going to say something and
you're totally right.
People are going to agree with you. I'm like, okay.
That's a good analogy for that. Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing about art, I feel like too, is at least for me, I feel like art is all about like the dichotomy of things. Like, art is supposed to be unexpected and weird and hit you like a truck.
Sure.
So why post every day at 3? That's kind of expected. You know what I mean? It's like for me as an artist, I just don't feel like that's going to give them the reaction that I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten to a point now where I've tried my best. Look, it's like, when was I at my happiest using any social media?
Mm-hmm.
And it was at a time when I wasn't thinking about schedules or
Right.
algorithms. If I had something to post, I would post it.
Right.
If I didn't, I did it.
Like MySpace days.
So now, yeah. So now that's kind of where I try to be.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's
oh
good.
shit, you know, we took this cool band promo. Okay, let's post it.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, you know, oh, let's wait for fucking Thursday at 3 p.m. because it's fucking, you know, we're going to drive the most traffic then. It's like,
it's not even a real thing. You know what I mean? Because what drives where your fans are on a Thursday, my fans might be Sunday morning.
sure.
You
I
know.
feel like if you're analyzing that sort of stuff and just putting out like music, you're in the wrong industry. If you want to pay attention to that stuff, you should be in some world that makes a lot more money, because you could be making a killing,
Dude, totally.
digging into like numbers and algorithms and charts and things like that just to get your dumb little heavy metal song noticed.
Go
like,
manage some Instagram thoughts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And put their stuff out every day. Because that's what is happening to it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's really cool, I think, to play with it too. Like, you know, people expect you to do something on Instagram, we'll do the opposite. Like, it's cool to just like mess with people's heads and stuff. I feel like, you know, like you know, what did I do recently? I think just the way I released my video, my last single, I'ma Do Me, I put it out in just a completely different way. Like, I put it out on, you know, I focused on the YouTube more than the Facebook for whatever reason. I just want to try it. But really I focused on the Instagram more than all of it, which I never did before for a release. And I was just like, I know my people are here. I'm going to give it to them here. And I'm just going to, you know, mold it to make it easier for them, as opposed to like, oh, I'm on iTunes, go buy it on iTunes. It's like, no, I know that they don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and you know, I feel like you're really good at it. Post, you know, doing your thing. I feel like every time you post, there's like a reason for it, and it might be a band photo, it might be a podcast. I think it's a really cool dynamic that you have, you know, going on. And if more people could just look at it like that, I think it would help them, you know.
Yeah, trying to split it up. It helps now because like I've tried to create, you know, unique social media for all of the stuff, but it's become a problem because, you know, it's okay, I got Sykes, and then I got Sykes and New Violence, and then I got the podcast, and I got Grey Walker, and I got MySpace Night and all these things.
Right.
So I got, you know, 5-6 different things times, you know, 3 or 4 social media platforms. All of a sudden I'm managing a couple dozen social media accounts. It's like, whoa, like this got way out of hand real fast.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, just stick to the things that you really like doing. Also, like, if like I got rid of Twitter like 2 years ago. I mean, I was bumping on there for a minute, but then when it started to die, I was like, screw this. I don't have time for this. Like, I just don't. You know what I mean?
I have it, so it's there. You know, it always looks like really, because there was a time like Grey Walker didn't have an active Twitter for a while, and I felt like it looked hella unprofessional, and we'd be like out of town playing shows, and we'd be the only band that wasn't tagged. Because we didn't have a Twitter to tag.
I totally understand.
And it's like, fuck, like, you know, that looks a little shitty. So we should probably make one.
I think you reach a point, you know, like for me, I feel like, yeah, if I got to a point where I'm messing with all these venues and agencies and they're on all like LinkedIn and Twitter, then yeah, I'm going to have all that stuff. But maybe at that point I'll have someone that can help me manage it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Hopefully, maybe not. But, right now I'm just putting all the energy into things that I kind of have control over, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and Instagram just seems to work for me because it just does. I don't know why really. Like Facebook's cool too, because I get to connect with people in the city, which is really dope. You know, that's how I became a fan of your stuff. I just was seeing it all the time. Yeah, back when I was in LA, you know, and I was just a huge fan.
Awesome.
So, and I meant to, you know, check in earlier, but like I said, when I moved here, I like put out some music and I got sick for like 4 or 5 months. So
yeah,
it's been a minute.
You mentioned that a few times. How are you doing now? What happened?
I can walk.
Are you okay?
I can walk.
Yeah, you made it here.
Yeah. I in April, like the month that I released my single, I found a tumor on me that I had to get removed. So it took a long time for them to even figure out what it was. At first they told me it was normal. And then I was watching it grow and I was like, okay, this is not normal. So then I just had to get test after test. It was just a few weeks ago, actually, when things got serious. I was in the hospital like every other day. And then just on Friday, they cut it out of me. So I feel super blessed.
Yeah.
Like
I can't believe you're sitting here right now. That's fucking crazy.
I can't really either, honestly, because it was so bad when it happened on Friday. Like I was out of this world when I woke up from the surgery. I was like not doing well.
Yeah.
But I powered through it. I don't know. Like I think just being totally sober and sticking with that has helped my body so much.
Oh, I fucking bet, dude. Holy shit.
So I don't plan on, relapsing again or anything like that. But it was really scary. I spent a couple of weeks like wondering if I was going to live, you know what I mean? Which was really weird. I never had to go through that. And just not knowing changed my perspective on like my music, my life,
Yeah.
And coming back into it, I feel kind of better than ever. I feel like I was like given another chance because it easily could have went the other way. And also when I was in LA, like I was battling some real serious depression. Like, I'd gone through a couple, situations out there that were just like really hard for me to kind of deal with. And, I had some low points, like waking up in the bathtub, at 7 a.m. with the water on me. Like, wow, I could have drowned last night, and like self-harm and stuff. So it was rough. And there's a lot of times when I feel like I've been given like this card, like, all right, dude, like get your shit together and just go back out there and try harder. So I feel super blessed to even be considering making a new album and stuff. So I kind of want to make it the best one I've made.
Hell yeah, dude. That's the fucking point.
Yeah.
So whenever this does come out and everything that you have prior, where can people find this shit? Plug your stuff, my dude.
You go to prplchld.com, prplchld.com.
He spells it better than me, obviously.
Yeah,
I don't fucking know it.
It's all good. It's a little confusing, but everything I do is so.
It's being human, right? Human.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of websites. I like making them. I feel like it's like having someone over at your house. You know what I mean? You can make it look the way you want.
Yeah.
You can really give. It's like everything I do is on there. So you can visit my website and it could just take you from there. So when I first moved here, I was lucky. The Pittsburgh Music Magazine did a little review on my stuff, and I felt really lucky for them to give me, a shout out, and that was really cool. So I plan on just spreading the word more and just trying to perform as much as possible.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
You got anything lined up, or you're just kind of working on a lot of stuff right now?
I don't, because like I said, I literally got out of the hospital on Friday. So I intentionally like didn't think about anything but my health and my family for a while. And coming out of it, I can feel the fire in me.
Hell yeah.
Ready to go. So it's just about dropping some more music and just getting back on the horse and just booking shows like we always do. So
it's fucking killer, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I definitely wish you the best.
Thanks.
I look forward to seeing everything that's, coming up.
Thank you, bro.
I'm glad that you're doing well. I'm glad that you're here. It was awesome to finally get to meet you and chat. Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah.
Shooting the shit.
And I'll be at your Brillo Box thing.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to come by.
All right, dude. I hope you can be there. That'd be fucking tight, dude. That should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, man. And I think that we pretty much covered the basis here. We're an hour in, but I'll tell you what, you drop some shit, we'll come back, we'll chat some more.
Cool.
We'll do it again sometime, dude. It'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's inspiring. So
thank you, man. Yeah. It's really it's good to hear that. It's one thing that I definitely want to encourage anybody. Today, I would say this could be my thing for people to do today. Do this. You got to do this. If you know somebody in the local music scene art scene, even like they're a registered nurse. I don't know. If you know somebody that does something, they work really. You know somebody that does something and they're really fucking good at it, just fucking let them know today.
Yeah.
Shoot them a message right now and just be like, hey, I know this might be a little weird and this might be out of nowhere, but hey, you know, like, Cynthia, you've been killing the nurse game. You know, I think you work really hard at what you're doing. And there's sometimes maybe you get down on yourself and you think maybe you shouldn't have gone to school for this, or, you know, whatever the situation is. Just let somebody know that you're recognizing their work, because I feel that a lot of times, like, we don't hear it. You know, we get a lot of validation just out of like likes or retweets and all this like stupid, like superficial stuff. Just take that extra second and let somebody know that you're proud of, that you're actually proud of them. I think it makes a world of difference. You know, I always like, am like very fucking humbled whenever like somebody's just like, hey, like I really enjoy the podcast. It means a lot.
You know what they say? You know what they say, right?
I don't know. What?
A DM is worth 1,000 likes. Hell yeah.
That's fucking tight. And that's all, folks. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. One more time. Dusty Ray, a.k.a. Prplchld, a.k.a. the dude with the hair, a.k.a. your boy. I don't know. I'm just making up names. I'll be back again next time with another episode. Same time, maybe. Same place for sure. Same channel, totally. My name is Sykes. Start the Beat 2019. Woo, woo! Thanks for listening. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Fade that shit out. That slow fade. All right, and we're done.
Beautiful.